Vikings, let's win this game.
Vikings fan, I have seen a lot of winters in Minnesota, but today came packed with twists. The team got hit with bad news right as an NFC North rival made a coaching move. At the same time, there is a heavy decision coming on a young piece of the offense in the salary cap room. There is also an unexpected statement from Will Freeze. And at the end, there is a fact that pokes at our history with kicks. But before we start, real quick, subscribe to the channel. It is free and it helps a ton to keep this community active. And drop your take in the comments. This is real fan debate for real. Look, the NFC North does not give you a break. Even when you just want to breathe after the season. Detroit moved pieces on the board, and when a rival moves, you feel it immediately, because division games are a fistfight. The Lions got fed up with their offense. They fired the offensive coordinator who stepped in after Ben Johnson. And here is the detail that made me stop. They have already started talking to Mike McDaniel, the guy who turned Miami into a fast, creative attack. If that dude lands in Detroit with the weapons they have, life in purple and gold gets a whole lot more annoying in those two matchups next year. McDaniel is not just some mentor. He took an offense that was lukewarm and made it a machine. He had a 70-point game, and he still carries that San Francisco run game DNA. He is the kind of brain that makes a defense look foolish if it blinks. I am not saying it is done, but the possibility alone is enough to set off alarms for who lives and breathes Vikings football. And while Detroit hunts for a coordinator, we have smoke coming out of the helmet on the defensive side too. Brian Flores has become a hot name for a head coaching job. Good for him. But for Minnesota, it is that tight feeling in your chest. And it does not stop there. Durante Jones, our passing game guy on defense, is already getting interview attention. The Jets asked to talk. And there is chatter with the Cowboys too. If we lose Flores and we also lose Jones, the defense that finally found a face could turn into a remodel while the house is still occupied. That frustrates the entire fan base because the defense was the unit that held so much together when the offense sputtered. Flores brought identity. Jones helped fine-tune the small stuff. Coverage, communication, positioning. Losing two minds like that at the same time is basically asking to start over with someone from the outside. And a system change is not a switch you flip. And there is another layer people do not talk about enough. On offense, there was a real feeling inside the building about an assistant who left. Grant Udinsky was the guy helping translate ideas and get the young quarterbacks ready. When he left for Jacksonville, it sounded like the reaction was, "We should have kept him." People inside the team admitted it. And that matters because developing a young quarterback in the NFL is about routine and detail. So look at the scene. A rival trying to drop a dangerous offensive brain into the division. Us possibly losing a key piece of the defensive command. And the offense still rethinking how it organizes the house internally. You only get this Vikings fan read, straight up, no fluff. Now tell me, are you more worried about Detroit getting stronger or about our staff potentially getting torn apart? Drop your take in the comments because I want to feel where this purple and gold fan base is at. And stay with me because the next story goes straight into money and the future of the offense. There are moments when a team hits a crossroads you cannot keep dodging. And this offseason has one of those moments staring us in the face. Because it is not just another player, it is a piece that changes how the offense can breathe on Sundays. The topic is Jordan Addison. But before the name turns into a contract, there is a decision that comes first. The Vikings have to decide whether to pick up the fifth-year option on his rookie deal. And the read that is gaining steam is simple. The lean is yes. Big voices around the league have basically said it makes sense to lock that in now so it does not turn into a soap opera later. And that is where the fan debate starts. Because he has the talent. When Kevin O'Connell's scheme clicks, Addison shows up with splash plays. But 2025 was a weird season for the entire offense. Unstable quarterback play drags production down. And it did. Addison finished with 42 catches, 610 yards, and 3 touchdowns. And he also had that 3-game suspension, which was on him. That lands hard when you are the one writing checks. Still, there is a point a lot of people ignore. He improved his yards per catch. It was 14.5 per reception. That shows juice. That shows a vertical threat. And when the passing game steadies, that number usually turns into real damage. I can easily see 1,000 yards there if the offense has stability. Now let us talk about the elephant in the room. The risk. Addison has had off-field headaches more than once. There was that benching situation after he missed a meeting in London. There was trouble that turns into headlines. And that is not a small thing when you are talking about paying star money. This purple and gold fan base remembers how fast a talented player can become a distraction. And the money is heavy. The wide receiver market is wild. If Addison digs in and has a big season, he will ask for something like $30 million a year. You might call that insane. But look at recent deals and where the salary cap is heading. That is the NFL right now. And if Minnesota wants to lock him up, the conversation could turn into something like 3 years in the range of $90 million or 4 years in the range of $120 million. That is money that reshapes the rest of the roster. The question is it worth the risk? I see two sides. One, he is young and talented. He is only 23 years old. Two, the team needs to be sure about maturity before it hands over the vault. If the plan is to build around J.J. McCarthy and not spend everything on another quarterback solution, keeping Addison gains momentum. And there is a hard truth, too. In recent drafts, the Vikings have not hit enough true blue-chip picks. Letting one of the few that worked walk would be a gut punch. You see how this turns into a tug-of-war. As a fan, I am split. And there is one more twist. If the offense wants a real leap, the next story helps explain why. Because what is coming is a strong public show of support inside the locker room about who should run this team. Some things do not show up in the stat sheet. You can feel it in the way the team walks into the huddle. You can see it in the eyes of the guys in the trenches. And this week, a message like that came out loud and clear from inside. Fans are arguing about who the guy should be in 2026. Will there be a competition? Will they go get a veteran? Will they protect the plan with another name? But one of the dudes who lives the collision game up front decided to speak. And when a lineman talks, I listen. The guy who dropped the line that shook the conversation was Will Fries. He flat out said he wants this team with J.J. McCarthy as the quarterback one. It was not a casual compliment. It was the kind of statement that feels like a vote of confidence. Fries talked about leadership. He talked about moxie and courage. He talked about the kid's energy and presence. And he said he will go to war for him. That matters because nobody protects a quarterback out of pity. You protect him because you believe in him. And it did not stop with Fries. A Week 18 video surfaced with C.J. Ham showing love too. That veteran who has seen a bunch of quarterbacks come and go. Ham called McCarthy a dog in the best way. He said the future is bright. And McCarthy responded, clearly moved. I watched that and thought, okay, something real is happening here. Then there is another name that caught my attention. Brian O'Neill praised the kid too. And O'Neill is not a guy who tosses out empty words. He is a standard setter. When a tackle like that buys in, the locker room hears it. But here is the part that ties your brain in knots. McCarthy flashed in 2025. He had games where you said, that is it. And then he had stretches that made you want to shut the television off and go shovel snow. Seriously. And durability became part of the conversation. Knee in the past. Then ankle. Then a concussion. Then his hand. The league does not care about the why. It cares whether you are on the field on Sunday. And there is pressure on Kevin O'Connell and Kwesi Adofo-Mensah. The franchise walked into 2026 with the noise of expectations. 2 playoff trips, 0 wins once they got there. The clock tightens. If the season does not become a real step forward, that Black Monday talk starts hovering. Nobody likes it, but it is real. That is why people bring up a plan B. A cheap veteran, a free agent like Malik Willis, even a huge name if he is still out there, like Aaron Rodgers. Via trade, you hear Kyler Murray. You hear Mac Jones, too. These conversations pop up fast, and I get the instinct. But the locker room seems to be sending a different message. Let the kid play. Let me say this straight. When the offensive line buys into the quarterback, the team gets tougher, even if he still misses throws. Even if he still swings up and down. It changes the vibe of the offense. And stay with me because the next story pulls us into the part I love and fear at the same time, the draft. And there are positions where if the Vikings miss, the defense will pay for it. If there is a time of year when I have seen fans turn into detectives, it is right now. January hits and it starts immediately. Film and mock drafts, lists too, and group chat arguments. And I do not complain because that is defend the North energy. But before we get lost in prospect names, you can say one thing with confidence. The 2026 draft has to fill real holes in Minnesota. First point, the secondary, and I am looking straight at Harrison Smith here. The man is a legend, but all signs say he is close to calling it. If that happens, it leaves a massive void in the defense. It is not just talent. It is voice and adjustments. It is reads and alignment. You lose that and teams hit you over the top, and safety is not a spot you patch with hope. If a ready-made guy is there, you go get him. Then there is the other side of the secondary, cornerback. The defense held up in 2025 without a true scary number 1 corner like the league usually has. But that comes with interest. Every week offenses try to isolate matchups. They try to hunt a corner. If Minnesota finds a corner who becomes a real anchor, the defense gains margin, and the pass rush breathes easier too. Now let us get into the topic that always splits this purple and gold fan base, running back. I respect the effort from Aaron Jones Sr. and Jordan Mason. They did what they could, but we did not have that real impact back who changes a game in the fourth quarter. And if the plan is to help J.J. McCarthy, a strong run game is his best friend. It takes pressure off. It opens play action. It gives rhythm. I do not need a running back in round one to be happy. But the Vikings need to leave the draft with someone who brings explosion. Another point, I do not see enough people pushing hard. Tight end. Yes, there is TJ Hawkinson, but he did not look like the same terror as before. And Josh Oliver is a solid tight end too, a worker. But he is not that security blanket starter who gives the quarterback an easy answer when everything is collapsing. McCarthy needs a blanket in the middle of the field, the guy who gets you 6 yards when the play is broken. If the draft offers that kind of piece, I am paying attention. And finally, the middle of the offensive line, center. The potential retirement of Ryan Kelly is the kind of note that feels small, but it changes the entire offense. The center sets protections. He adjusts for blitzes. He gives the quarterback calm. If you miss there, everything starts falling apart. See how all of this ties into one idea: protect the future of the offense and keep the defense's identity. And here is the thing, there is one last story that fits perfectly, because it involves a name that, in Minnesota, still brings back chills when you think about the past. Kicking, an award, and that curse we all swear is gone. I will tell you something, when it comes to kickers in Minnesota, my stomach still turns. I have seen kicks bring relief, and I have seen kicks become trauma that lasts for years. So when a real sign of hope shows up at that position, I celebrate, but I do it with one foot on the brake. And yes, this good news has a name, but stay with me for a second, because it is not just some random award. It is NFL recognition, the kind you have to earn. And it came at a time when the team closed the season with a late push that at least brought some pride back. The guy who got the honor was Will Reichard. He was named NFC Special Teams Player of the Month for December and January. And what he did in that stretch is ice-cold stuff. He went 12 for 12 on field goals and 12 for 12 on extra points from Week 14 through Week 18. Perfect. No excuses, no almost. And in a league built on details, that matters. The wild part is his last miss of the season was way back in Week 8. After that, he got locked in, and the schedule had real moments, big games, tough nights, cold and wind, hostile stadiums, and he drilled them like it was practice. And when you look deeper, it gets even better. Reichard hit from long range. From 50-plus yards, he went 11 for 13 on the season. That puts him in the conversation with the best in the league from that distance. In Minnesota, that almost feels unreal, because we have lived with that fear of, here we go again, and I am not exaggerating. Every purple and gold fan remembers how much it can hurt. The most painful example is Blair Walsh. He was great here at times, and he still got branded by one short kick that turned into a nightmare in 2015. So when a young kicker shows up consistent, it is normal to doubt, especially when he does not flinch. It is a scar. But here is my point. This award is more than a shiny trophy. It sends a message to the roster. In tight games, when the offense stalls, the defense holds, and the clock becomes the enemy, a trustworthy kicker changes everything. It changes fourth down decisions. It changes play calls. It changes how you play the end of a game. And there is another detail I love. Reichard did this while the offense swung up and down. There were weeks when J.J. McCarthy took hits from every angle. There were games where Justin Jefferson disappeared in the plan. And still the kicker delivered points. Points are points. And in the NFL, that turns into wins. Now hold on to that feeling because it leads to a bigger question. If this team is finding guys who deliver in the details like Reichard, what is still missing to make the Vikings tougher, more consistent, and truly dangerous? Man, look at everything we unpacked today. A rival trying to get stronger with a dangerous offensive brain, and that changes life inside the division. At the same time, our coaching staff could lose big pieces, with Brian Flores and Durante Jones getting interest from around the league. And when you mess with who runs the defense, you mess with the team's identity. That is not small. Then you turn to the offense and the storyline starts early. Jordan Addison. The talent is real. Nobody debates that. But the fifth-year option decision and the extension talk force one question the fan base cannot dodge. How much do you pay and how much risk do you accept? Because if the plan is to grow with J.J. McCarthy, keeping an explosive piece next to him feels obvious. But maturity and consistency have to show up. And on McCarthy, I liked seeing the line back him up. Will Freeze, C.J. Ham, and Brian O'Neill were not just talking, they showed confidence. That is a sign of a united locker room. And a united locker room, in a year with pressure, is half the battle when the hits start coming. On top of all that, the draft is already calling, and my mind is on the secondary, on protection up the middle, and on giving the quarterback real support. If Harrison Smith is truly near the goodbye, safety becomes an emotional and football priority. And cornerback, no question, offenses will test it non-stop. Now, the part I did not expect is leaving the season with such a good story in a place that usually scares you. Will Reichard winning an award, kicking perfect, drilling long ones. It is a relief I almost do not know how to process. I want to believe. I really do. But Minnesota taught me to celebrate carefully. And here is my bold statement. If this team does not get lost in staff changes and nails 2 key decisions this offseason, the Vikings can legitimately fight in 2026. That is not fantasy. That is a path. But it takes backbone. So tell me this. Drop a comment. This space belongs to everyone who lives and breathes Vikings football. I want to know what is you most worried and what is you most hopeful. Stay tuned. SKOL Vikings. Let's go.